Okay, I just want to welcome everybody to another episode of Cartoon Insider. We're very happy to have with us this time around, in addition to Larry Houston and Rick Hoberg, we have Will Minio.
Yay! We got him finally.
Yeah, we finally have the
Well,
three amigos together.
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
thank you. You know, I had such a good time watching you guys. I thought, well, I should join in. Who knows how many times we'll have to reflect on this stuff together.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth? And it's just really a wonderful thing that we're back together after all these years, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of good runs along the way. It was really
Well,
an amazing friendship.
Yeah.
Well, and what I think is really interesting is that, you know, we've essentially, you know, we all got into the business about the same time. You know, it's like we graduated from high school, and our first jobs, we met each other.
Yeah.
And because, you know, we're all loyal to each other, we all tried to take care of each other. We've managed to stay friends for almost 50 years. It's really
Oh man.
It
I
is.
don't know very many artists that have those kind of stable relationships. But truth is, you know, professionally, you guys are my brothers.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Feel
agree.
the same way.
Yep. I
Yeah.
feel the same way too. Yes.
You and I met before we got our first jobs. We met each other in the lobby of Hanna-Barbera, and we were
Yep.
both going in for interviews with
Yep.
Doug Wildey that day.
Yep, I remember, and
Okay.
I knew you from when we were doing the Tarzan comics.
Yep, and I
remember
knew
your
you
stuff.
from the same. Yep.
And so it was so much fun to get there and then to meet you and Dave and Bill Ray. And then when Russ Heath came on and Mike Sikowski, then meeting Tony Segroy and all those guys, I thought, holy smokes, it's like a comic convention every day.
It was fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got to know Bill Ray actually when I worked on Harley, the animated Harley over at Warner Brothers. He's a pretty cool guy. We'd actually take walks together. We're working in house, and he had some kind of cool stories to tell about you, Rick, working on the Star Wars comic book back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into some X-Men, shall we? Yep, this is Cartoonist Insider, where cartoonists talk about animation, comics, and all things related to the medium and industry to which we are a part. Give us a like and subscribe if you dig what we're doing. Give us some comments. We love comments. I had some pretty interesting comments from last time, one of which I'll mention at some point. There will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen the finale, you probably want to watch that before you watch this, unless you don't care. But yeah, we're gonna get into it. So I think before we get into the finale, I just want to set up for people that there would be no X-Men 97 if there was no original X-Men series, all of which you guys were part. And in my own very small way, I was a part as Rick's storyboard cleanup way back in the day. And there would be no classic X-Men if there was no Pride of the X-Men.
X-Men, X-Men, it's the day, X-Men, X-Men,
which was the pilot that you guys were hired to create. You were all credited as producers, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
And we
Yeah.
were.
Each of
Yeah.
you boarded an act, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, Will, you boarded Act 1.
Actually, the three of us developed a system because when we were working on Spider-Man as Amazing Friends, sometimes we'd do assignments for filmation together.
Mhm.
And I would always do Act 1 because I'm the fanatic for numbering and all that. So I do all the setup stuff. Rick would handle all that rough middle section, and then Larry get the big blowout at the end of the action.
Will, I saw you post the first page from that board on
Yeah.
your Facebook site. And so I asked if I could have copies of the board, and you guys have been sending those to me. They look great. And I know a lot of people listening to this will probably, or they're just listening on headphones while they work or while they drive. You know, I intercut actual cut scenes from the episode or whatever we're talking about. But you'll have to keep a sharp eye out. And I will be superimposing images from the boards as we talk about them. But those look great.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it's so funny because I rewatched Pride today to be ready in case we were going to talk about it.
Mhm.
And that shot you did of the blackbird circling Asteroid M, I
Yeah.
remember seeing the storyboard, and that was just like a modern animatic. Larry had like if you filmed that, you would have had that animation.
Yeah. I
Nice.
was trying channeling my best anime, trying to put that cinema on the screen. This is the mid 80s and we were trying to get the X-Men on the air, giving our A game and trying to do a really good job. And I mean, we had Toy of all people to do the animation to make it look really good.
It did.
So,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, and when we're talking about Pride, I think that we should mention the Japanese director Masayuki Akehi, who had been like the Japanese supervisor on G.I. Joe when we were doing G.I. Joe with Toy. And Marvel had kind of expressly forbidden any of us to associate with Japanese directors. And I just thought it was kind of bullshit. And so one time when Joe came to the studio with her mom, taking her on the studio, and Akehi-san latched on Joe's mom and started talking to her. I thought, this is a human being. I'm just going to sit here and talk to him. So we got to be friends. And I think because I built a relationship with Akehi-san, we were able to get better production than I'd have otherwise on Pride, because unlike everybody else in Marvel, treated him like a human being.
Yeah.
Well, man, I really appreciate your efforts there, Will, all your efforts on that. And you really helped bring up Marvel animation and cartoons up to another level. I was a kid. I was the demographic back then. I was, reading the comics. So of course I watched any cartoon. I mean, I love DC too. So I was watching, I grew up on the Super Friends, and I appreciated it as I was a little kid, like 5, 6 years old, but as I got older, it's like, man, I just wish these cartoons could be more like the comics. And
Right.
Spider-Man is Amazing Friends was cool. It was actually one of my favorites of that time, but it's like, like they really need to have a Mrs. Lyons.
And what do you think of Spider-Man, Miss Lyons?
Why is he roommates with Firestar and Iceman, and where did they get that crazy getup? Like, why do they have like in their apartment? It like turns into like this high tech thing they never.
Oh God.
We questioned that too,
Yeah.
I'm sure you did, and you later learn it's all this outside interference by people that aren't really fans, like just meddling and just saying, giving you these restrictions and parameters. And that was what when I saw the Pride of the X-Men, I felt like it's like, oh wow, finally I'm saying something that's been produced that looks like it's created by people that love comics.
But even so, the problem with that is I pitched the original storyline for that, and you'll actually see that being the Night of the Sentinels in the actual series. As I pitched the idea that they would beat the Sentinels first, because then you could show what Wolverine and Cyclops did. And so I did a beat outline, and then Larry and Rick helped me push it out and present it to Stan. Everything was going great. We're going to have like 22 minutes where the X-Men were just fighting Sentinels. And then the Marvel toy guys got involved, said, no, we have to introduce all mutants so we can show there's a toy line.
Right.
And so suddenly, instead of having 7 X-Men and the Sentinels concept, we had to introduce characters in 8 minutes. And the pilot really suffers from it. And then the other big piece of interference that happened was after the fact, Stan decided he needed to narrate it.
Oh God, yeah.
And so I was looking at those shots on the storyboard. That's a very tight sequence where it's just the dialogue of the soldiers and all that. And then Stan decided he needed to narrate it. And so suddenly I had to find footage when we were editing it to extend it by about a minute and a half.
Wow.
And so if you look at the Pride, there's suddenly this weird shot of a Jeep wheel going across some hard dirt with a little bit of grass. And I had to steal that from an episode of Hulk cover Stan's voiceover.
Yeah. So yeah, there were restrictions still, like that you had to work, and of course BSMP, broadcast standards and practices, and the demographic being I'm assuming was still a Y7 market, so you have to make it as cool and as adult as you could while still keeping it at that level, which is one of the things that they don't have to worry about at all now. I mean, you look at the new X-Men series and it's like it
It's
does
full on.
it does give you everything you get as a comic book reader, which is with no restrictions. It really gets to explore the topics in a more mature way, and it is great. But you guys, for what you had, for the restrictions you guys had, um, you still, I mean, you made the most of it, and it definitely shows. I loved it. I mean, that thing has a cult following to this day, and you know, that
Right.
was the thing that um I, I I'm assuming that's the thing that garnered enough interest to give you guys the opportunity to retool it and turn it
Well,
into the classic series that we all
not in the sense you think. It was just that
right,
Margaret always loved the property and she always had faith in us.
Yeah.
right. Okay, so she was the exec that was in your corner.
Yeah, Margaret Lesh, and
Yeah.
Margaret put her career on the line to back us, and
Props to her.
it was really really crucial because in the early days, there wasn't a day that I didn't have a stand down. You know, there
Mhm.
was just they were always trying to screw with the show and make it stupid. Like I'd be sitting at my desk and I get a binder from Marvel of like X-Men walkie-talkies that were sculpted in the shape of Wolverine
Yes.
and Cyclops, and they go, "Can't you put this
Yes.
in the show? Can't you put this in the show?" I kept saying no,
Mm,
and fortunately, Margaret and Sydney Eyewater and even Jim Graziano, the head of the studio that doing the show, backed me. We actually came to a head one day where Marvel wants to put in some Australian McDonald's toys, and I
mm.
had a very unpleasant face-off. The Marvel guy on the West Coast, the lawyers, and they're saying that I'm going to have to put that in. I don't believe I have to. They try forcing me on as standard practices, and I will ensure that you'll never see a toy on that show.
Mhm.
And that night I got home, I got a call from Jim Graziano, and he said, you know, Marvel's threatening to pull the show from it if you don't back down. And I said, you back down here, they're going to ruin the show, and we will done all this for nothing. He said, well, if you feel that way, we'll back you. And that was an unusually ballsy guy for an independent studio and who had everything on the line. And so I really appreciate him and appreciate Margaret and Sydney backing us. That's why that show wasn't little crappy toys.
Mm. Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah, great story. All right. Well, so yeah, we've talked about Pride of the X-Men and how it led to the classic series and then eventually the new series. And that's what ultimately what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the season finale of X-Men 97 called Tolerance of Extinction Part 3, and that directed by Chase Connolly. It's exciting to have you on board, Will, and it's great to have all three of you because Paul DeMayo, the executive producer, the one that pitched the series and got it going in the first place, he posted on
You
his
mean Beau?
yeah,
Oh, yes.
Beau
Beau
DeMayo.
Demayo.
He posted on Twitter that he's with each week he gives homework to the people that follow him. It's like read this issue of X-Men, read issue 25 of the X-Men where Wolverine gets the adamantium pulled out of his skin, or watch this episode of the classic X-Men series. And then for this new one, he would say, watch Pride of the X-Men. So yeah, I was eager to see how that influenced this season finale. And well, right off the bat, the asteroid M that apparently you designed, Rick, for Pride of the X-Men was front and center in this episode. So I'm assuming that's with the finale of the episode taking place on the asteroid. That's what he was referring to. I was kind of
Yeah.
hoping Kitty Pryde would show up, but
It looked to me like he was giving shout outs all over the place because there was a lineup that was really old school that I had done for the storyboard and ended up in the show. And
oh,
here it was reused in the show this morning. Some different characters, but
uh-huh.
Nightcrawler and Storm and Cyclops were all in their same positions and stuff. And I'm just going,
Oh, really?
these guys are really just giving us the love today.
So they
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
studied that thing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. They obviously had. He obviously told somebody, "Give me a modern representation of this shot, if you would." But it's an old school type shot. It's something you'd see on a Marvel comics.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like even like in the Genosha episode, there were scenes like right out of that episode just with the updated character. It was
Yep.
remarkable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have amazingly um, good, consistent animation. I think we talked about that in our first discussion, and I would love to know more details on the process of how that's achieved. I get the feeling that maybe there is a combination of like some CG armatures or characters that they're working over because it's so consistent the way it moves. I'd love to.
It does look like they're using some rigged figures, yeah.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah, and a lot more time and money, as we've mentioned.
Yes.
Oh, money. You can see
Yeah.
the money everywhere.
Right.
No, you really can because I just look at it. It's like when we were setting up our show, when I set up the initial design firm, where it was like, well, everybody wants to be Batman. And I go, we can't be Batman. We our best day will only have $1 for every they spend. On our worst day, we'll have $1 for every three they spend.
Mhm.
And so we need to design something that can be done and effectively that relies on graphics for an animation.
Yeah.
And I think it was effective for the time. But now seeing that graphic approach used with something with the huge budget, I mean, it's like, man, that really works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really works.
that's
Yeah.
crazy because it's crazy they wouldn't spend the money back in the day when they had such a huge market share,
Well, but
now they have a fraction of that market share, and I'm just
but you see, the thing with Marvel versus Warner's is Marvel was when we started.
that's true. This is
They,
pre-cinematic.
yeah,
That's
they were
true.
broke. They just been
That's true.
newly acquired by Toy Biz, and in fact,
Yeah.
their prestigious piece was Toy Biz and Carl Icahn going on for the next 5 years, and they could only scrape together about the budget for kind of low end syndicated. Now, on those first seasons, if you were an investor in X and they gave you a fair return on it, you would have made a lot more money on X. But at the same time, we did manage to actually do the first Marvel show we thought a Marvel show should look like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we pestered them all the way along. That started at Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. We're the ones that kept saying X-Men, X-Men, X-Men.
Right.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about?
Well, it helped create the original cinematic universe through animation, when you think about it. But with all the cameos that you put in there, Larry, which I love how this show has picked up on that, where in this latest one especially, like
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was so happy to see Captain America actually have a part.
Yeah, that was cool. I didn't
No.
like I mentioned before, I wasn't so crazy about what Rogue did with his shield, but
Yeah, true.
Here, Fido, catch.
and then he shows up later with the president, no shield. I was like, oh,
Right.
that's probably a thing. He was probably in outer space at this point. And then that sad look on his face when he's like, Mr. President, I'm not sure you want to do that. And like that
Yeah.
thing. And he was, he decides to the Magneto, whatever it's called. But yeah, I'm glad to see him. And then Doctor Strange was there, working
The Watcher.
Yeah.
And Daredevil and Cloak and Dagger.
Cloak and Dagger. Yeah. Surprised me with those.
Cool.
Yes.
Lots of cameos. So, and you did that too, Larry, all over the place in the original in a kind of a clever way because you weren't officially allowed to necessarily use them because the licenses were much more broken up into different entities back then. So you just sort of snuck them in and renamed, or just in the background. But then also, you look at because kids back then we had X-Men to watch, but then also Spider-Man, the 90s Spider-Man, which the success of this new cartoon, I'm starting to wonder, are they going to do a Spider-Man 97?
Well, I think John Semper's waiting by the phone.
Yes.
On Facebook.
I'm down for it, but in that one you got to see a lot of cameos as well, and then eventually they wound up doing kind of their own version of Secret Wars.
There's another team of superheroes that I've worked with before. Computer, bring me one of the X-Men.
Which one?
Good question. Let's see. There was one so powerful that she could control the very weather. she might be a suitable match for the Beyonder's powers. Computer, bring me the one called Storm.
Affirmative.
All right. Bring everyone that I've called for. Now.
What happened?
That's my fault, I guess.
Spider-Man?
I'm the one who brought you.
And Cap was in that, a bunch of other characters. So there was that was the original shared universe
Yeah,
side of the comics.
that's what one of the directors from on this current series, he was quoted as saying, like, our show, the X-Men show, was the MCU before the MCU got invented, years later, and that because of what we did and all the cameos, we were showing like a vibrant, connected universe back then.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny how Marvel proper's relationship with the original X-Men show has changed over the years. First couple of years, when we kind of opened the door for them and demonstrated that their properties were viable in a broader sense than they ever thought possible, occasionally we get acknowledged that, that X-Men cartoon. And now
Yeah.
they will not mention X-Men or Spider-Man as having had anything to do with getting the universe off the ground, even though there would have been no X-Men movies and stuff without the X-Men.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
literally you could not give a Marvel property away
Right. Brian Singer
forced too many times.
admitted that he didn't even read the comics. He just watched your show
Yeah.
for research. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of showed in their first episode because we had Kitty Pryde gets chased by robots, gets knocked out, wakes up in a mansion. His
Mhm.
show, Wolverine gets chased by evil mutants, gets knocked out, wakes up in a mansion.
Yeah.
I
there
think
you
there's
go.
a coincidence there,
Huh? Yeah, I mean Kevin Feige, who's the prime architect, producer, president of Marvel, the cinematic universe. I saw him listed along with 20 other executive producers on X-Men 97. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm assuming he probably grew that his age range. He probably was a young guy when this stuff came out. And has he ever? What was his involvement with the show, by the way? Was he?
If his involvement with the show was dealing with Dana and Beau and Jake on a high level,
Oh,
but
okay.
not the day-to-day stuff. No.
Yeah. No, I figured. Yeah.
Yeah.
The executive
But
producer. He's busy
yeah.
doing stuff as well.
And, oh, before I forget, Jake and Emmy said hi to you.
Oh, to me?
To you. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yes, because I mentioned your name. They remember you quite well from way back when.
Right. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've met Emmy once. We have a mutual friend, and I spoke with Jake a few times because we were over at Warner Brothers together for a brief time. And yeah, I'm thrilled to see what he's doing with the X-Men for sure. So yeah, getting into like the finale, it started off in like a Vietnam type setting. It even had the 60s music playing as Professor X and Magneto. They compare their philosophical differences. And Magneto's take is better run and hide before they end up in camps. And
Right.
Professor X is more optimistic, of course, acceptance, protecting humanity. So, but then that's that quickly is revealed that that's turned into kind of a mental trick where Charles has invaded his psyche. Basically, he's there to force him to restore Earth's power.
Right. He's trying to force them to see
Mm-hmm.
and
And
trying to
yeah.
depress your anger and depress your depression, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Which which he eventually does, and then we get all those great cameos as the Earth's power is being restored. I also saw the 90s version we were talking, the 90s cartoons. I saw the 90s version of Iron Man in there as well.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Not the comic book version, the 90s animated version. So
Yes.
I don't see how they're, I mean, for me, I can only speak for myself personally, my particular generation. I don't see how they're gonna conceivably top what they've done here in the cinematic universe with the X-Men, because I don't know, this just hits all the sweet spots for me personally. It's the classic characters, the classic stories, but just updated in a great way. So good luck to the cinematic side
Yeah,
of it.
also-
I actually wrote a play and I put it on Facebook. A one
I
act
saw.
play. Did you see it?
Yes, I thought it was great.
It was basically, it starts off, the curtain opens and you're in a vast office of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're stating that they're going to make the greatest film version of X-Men ever done. And in comes the crew from X-Men 97, all holding beers, and they go, hold these. At the end, curtain draws.
Oh,
They're
shit.
not going to be able to do it as well as this. They can't. It's not possible.
Yeah,
Right.
they have to have to go their own way. All right, so yeah, just also we've been given shout outs. We start talking about the episode, but I do. We gave a shout out last time to Demayo, and we've given a shout out to Emmy and Chase, the directors, and Jake Castorena, the supervising
Mhm.
director. But also, we haven't talked about how freaking great the music is by the Newton brothers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I noticed their name was first in the credits, and yeah, they deserve a lot of credit. I mean, not only is the animation great, the storytelling is great, the performances are great, but the music is just selling it and underscoring it like like a great film. I mean, it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
at the end of this one, they had the X-Men theme song, but it was like an operatic version.
But that was very nice. I noticed
Yeah.
that. No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was super cool. And then also one of the in the comment section of the last video, one of them pointed out that we should give credit to Scott Lobdell, who took over for Chris Claremont in the 90s on the comic side. You know, he was the creator of Bastion, and then that whole Zero Tolerance storyline I think was written by him. And also Fabian, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but Fabian Nicieza,
Oh, I know the name. Yeah. I
yeah,
don't know how to pronounce it neither.
right, who was also writing around that time, and I
Yeah.
think was involved with some of that, maybe the Extinction Agenda, if I can recall. And he also co-created Onslaught, which was that evil combination of Professor X and
Right.
Magneto, which seems like maybe they might be building up towards in the future season, which would be very cool.
But wasn't he also involved in creating Cable, I think it was, and
Oh,
or
well, that was well, gotta give credit to Rob Liefeld for that
of
one.
course, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, dude, that guy was huge in the 90s.
Well, you got one thing about Rob is a lot of people, mean him, but when you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, his designs are more prevalent than anybody else's of modern
Yeah.
generation artists on.
Yeah,
And his
that's
characters, certainly with Deadpool and all
yep.
that, he's somebody that actually has contributed greatly to the MCU.
Yeah.
And his people are just cruel to him
Yeah, they are,
because
because
he is so
nice.
successful.
He's a nice guy too.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a nice guy, but also, like, I remember when I first saw his art, we were on vacation in Cancun, and the store at the hotel had the 6-inch hawk and dove that he did. And when I saw that, I go, this is a guy that's going to go somewhere back to the city. Oh, well, he's already there. I just hadn't
Yeah.
seen him.
Yeah.
Yeah, his designs translate really well to film actually, because he introduced a more practical look for his characters, knee pads, like boots with treads on them, things that operate well in the real world. So you look at that Deadpool movie, who he also created, and it's right out of the comic book page, as was Cable. You didn't really need to change anything.
Yep.
He really, when I met him at a con, and he really enjoyed the fact that, in the first season, second season, when Morph is walking, one of the characters he morphs into and out of is Deadpool, back when Deadpool wasn't really as popular as it became.
Mhm.
So I remember him saying, thanking me, thank you guys for doing that.
Yeah,
Obviously Cable was the other one, but seeing
yeah.
Deadpool, he really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Maybe someone, I mean, there's so many people that you could really credit. I mean, it's like everything, like animation and comics. It's it's an ensemble. I enjoyed the Mojo portrayal, the Mojo episodes. That's, going back to to one of the earlier ones, and you guys used Longshot as well.
He's still under contract. Do you realize what he's costing me? As if I don't have enough to worry about. Slave rebellions, workers who actually want to be paid, and my biggest star-turned rebel! Ingrate after all I've done for his career!
That was created by Arthur Adams. And man, did I love those. For like say a period of 3 or 4 years, every year Arthur Adams would do an annual.
Mhm.
Oh
And
yeah. Those
love
were
good
great.
stuff. I think he was a huge influence on guys like Jim Lee and some of
Yeah.
the extreme guys that came later. But
His Guardian annual that he did with the X-Men was just great.
Yeah.
oh
When-
yeah,
Yeah, but they
man.
were,
He did
yeah,
both. I think he
they-
did the New Mutants one, right? And the X-Men one.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
there was like two in 1 year he did. Yeah, those were amazing. I remember having a chance, maybe it was in one of those 80s comics journal or something that published some scans of his pencils, and just the pencils even in black and white were stunning.
Yeah. Before I forget, because you mentioned the Mojo episode, Will might get a kick out of this. I'm waiting for I have the cassette for a Mojo scene, and it's like maybe 3 or 4 seconds long. The guy babbles or something, and Sydney let the guy in up in Canada riff. I mean, he
Oh,
he
really?
did this Robin Williams, you know,
Mm.
scene, and I get oh, okay, I'm expecting Mojo to go say blah 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 blah, and they
Mm.
get the cassette, and it goes on for like 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and it's like he's going through this. And I told Sydney,
Yes.
next time you do this, call me, because I had to reboard that
Oh,
entire
Oh,
sequence
yeah.
because
right.
it nothing matched at all.
Mm.
It was
Good
one of
stuff.
those, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and to be clear, Will, you were the producer of season 1 of the X-Men, and
Yeah.
then Larry took over in season 2.
Right.
We're not going to talk about this too much, although I think we need a whole separate interview, Will. Where
I know.
we just
Will's-
talk about why you left and the show you left for, which would be Exo Squad.
So Squad.
It was a golden age for all mankind. Using the incredible exoskeletons called E-frames, we had successfully terraformed Venus and Mars and were poised to move on to the outer planets.
Well, there were a couple of things that happened. Like I got the offer between seasons, try doing the pilot for Exo Squad. And when I got to Universal and the people who created the property and the staff got assembled, and they wanted to do an Americanized, not unlike what was Gundam, which has always been my goal,
Mhm.
was to do a huge, science fiction show with continuity and all that. And so I did the pilot.
Mhm.
And when I did the Exo Squad pilot, it wasn't clear that X-Men picked up because we'd only had one airing at Thanksgiving. And it wasn't until it aired in January, February, that it became clear it was the #1 kids show.
Mm.
And also there's that Saban thing about Hayam told me one day, goes, well, do we need 2 producers on X-Men?
Oh,
And
geez.
I kind of said, well, I have this other show, and I don't think that I can actually work for you because I want to spend your money. And so I think I will go to this other show. And the truth is, Larry loves X-Men and characters more than my goal with X-Men was to demonstrate we do a Marvel show properly, and I think we did that. And Larry will be able to love the show more than I could. So anyway, it boiled down to, like they tried cheaping out on the writers. They were trying to cheap out on the producing too. And I think it was a ploy to knock down my salary and to knock down Larry's salary.
Mm.
And I thought, well, I have another door.
All right. Well, getting back to our X-Men 97.
We have a lot. We have a
Yeah.
lot of history,
I know,
we've
it's
been
hard
around
to-
for a long time.
and hopefully that's what people enjoy. Hopefully, because this is
Yeah.
Cartoon Insider. It's,
Yes.
I'm the insider. So the people I've had on so far are people I've worked with. And yeah, we have a lot of stories, a lot to share. And
Yeah.
hopefully that's part of the appeal. But yeah, getting back to that finale, we covered the cameos, Magneto turning being kind of coerced, semi-coerced into turning the power back on. And that allowed Bastion to be back on board with this plan to take over the planet with his human prime sentinel technology,
Yep.
which is, the goal was to destroy all mutants and sort of reshape mankind. And then that leads to Jean tapping into the Phoenix Force, so we get to see the return of the Phoenix, which
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of fans were happy to see.
I am Phoenix!
That was
Oh
super
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And that led to the defeat of Sinister. And then out of that, Bastion goes like Super Saiyan. And I don't know if that was comics or not, but he's this somehow he transforms into this winged angel demonic thing. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna go flap the asteroid M and I'm gonna send it hurling and crashing down on Earth. I don't know how that exactly is supposed to help humanity, but which I supposedly his like ultimate goal up at the asteroid M, which really picks up a lot on that Pride of the X-Men. Rogue's up there with some of the other core X-Men characters, and I love that line. His name is Gambit, remember it. And then as she comes and like does this huge punch that basically punches Bastion to the moon.
Right. Yeah.
Out through the thing. And then that great shot too. She's like punching and like tears are coming out, streaming down her face. Slow-mo of these tears going by, even as she's punching. And then the music, with the Newton brothers, she doesn't just punch him to the moon. She punches him to the blue area of the moon, which is
Right.
like a callback to the Dark Phoenix saga, where that's where everything kind of came to a head, the trial, on there. So that was really cool. And then we go back to Cap warning the president about enacting the Magneto protocols. Bastion ends up back on asteroid M after fighting with Rogue some more. And then we get to see more. I mean, somebody over there is a big Cyclops fan, and that's great. I think back in the 90s, probably if you would have asked me as a teenager, I'd have been like, yeah, Wolverine. Like, of course, like everyone's all about Wolverine.
Wolverine. Yes.
Everything's extreme, but I think as I've gotten older, I think Cyclops has probably become definitely, Cyclops, Storm, those are definitely, and Nightcrawler. I love Nightcrawler.
That is the heart and soul of the X-Men. I mean, he really is the one who keeps them together because he loves the family that they are,
Yeah, and he's got such a great moral compass,
Oh, that's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's so fun because he listens like he's a swashbuckler at heart,
Yeah, he is.
We
Yeah.
talked about that scene where he's fighting with 3 swashbuckler swords. It was stunning. And they really use his power as well. But it's cool to see Cyclops. He's not, in that battle with Bastion, he's not just shooting an optic blast, but he's doing a lot of athletics, diving out of the
I thought
way.
his eyeballs were gonna pop out at one
I know.
And well, then he does the biggest optic blast we've ever seen anywhere.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Never hurt my family again!
You could tell the directors were highly influenced by Dragon Ball Z.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all right by me. I'm a Dragon Ball fan myself, so.
Well, that was so funny because back when we were developing Captain America, we had a script that was kind of flat. I inserted a Dragon Ball Z type scene of Cap, in an explosion, jumping through the debris field, moving a piece of debris to get where he's going. And the guys at Marvel just, what? We don't get it. It's like, we cut it.
Oh, God.
Exactly what the kids would have wanted.
Yeah.
How
Totally.
by the way, Larry, how did Reed Richards end up in the middle of all that for a moment? That
Oh,
big
that was
battle scene.
that was
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
Morph. I
oh,
had
it's
to
more.
Oh,
I had
it was
to
Morph, of course
Yeah,
it
wondering
was.
about that too, actually.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
We
yeah.
saw him change when he changed into the Hulk, which was awesome too. But I
right.
thought, wow, what are the Fantastic Four doing up here? You know?
I know.
But I gotta say, I think that's the best animated Hulk ever.
Yeah,
Oh
it was
God,
great.
yeah, he did good. Yes. Yeah. The only thing that they do with this Morph that I think that I wish they had done when we had our Morph, when you did when he shifted, you had a sound effects or a music
Yeah.
cue. So that oh, he's changing into something. Now it's pretty silent. So it's like you're going, where did that Quicksilver come from?
Yeah.
This,
Oh,
where did
that was
this,
him too. Oh God, I'm missing all this. I gotta go back and watch this.
Yeah, well, you could have gave him that note, Larry. It's the thematic music cues. It's a lost art form. It seems like
Yeah.
a lot more modern
I know.
filmmaking don't do that. You think it's like Darth Vader when he comes in. It's always dun dun
Done.
dun. Dun.
Yes.
You
And
have
so
those thematic cues for each character.
yeah, that's all that's one
That
thing I told Jake about. It's like you need to add
yeah.
just something. So
Mhm.
when he shifts, you could hear it. So you know it's him
Mhm.
doing something.
All right. Well, hopefully season 2. That'll be
Yeah. I'm working on season 2. I'm on episode 8 and 9. So I'm
how,
working on that right now.
How many are going to be in season 2?
Just 10. I mean, for some reason they only do 10 in this streaming service, so another 10.
I know they could at least do 12. This doesn't mean like a comic book coming out once a month, you know?
Yeah, but the most Disney's ever done is like 8. So this
Yeah.
is a
This
special
is
thing.
pushing it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe they spend it's like a yearly thing and maybe they budget they can spend more money on less episodes. I mean I'm okay. The
Oh,
quality
their quality is really terrific.
I
Yeah. I
can't
watch a lot of their shows and I'm amazed at how good they are.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
One thing too that I noticed, as I've just been watching it over the last few days, is you don't notice it because the story is told so well. But when we were doing our show, our episodes ran 19 to 22 minutes. And
yeah.
these run between 33 and
Wow.
45. And
Wow.
the pacing is so
Yeah.
good, you don't notice that you
Oh,
have to time in.
right.
Yeah.
They don't have
Yeah.
that restriction either. It's like, hey, if they need to go 45 minutes, they go 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what's great about streaming.
I just
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool stuff out right now, and I've worked on some of it. I directed an episode on season 1 of Invincible, which everyone's talking about. Uh, I put this right up there. Maybe I think I like it even more. It's so well done, but it's also at the same time nostalgic. It just hits me on so many levels. It's just yeah, too much fun.
I
But the
think
thing,
yeah.
go ahead.
I was gonna say I think that's one of the attractions that makes it so long lasting is that you watch it and it's a word it's people use it as pejorative sometimes, but it's fun. I mean you have fun watching these shows, and I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what makes it long lasting.
As dramatic and serious as the topics are, it's still fun, and they really embrace that, the gravitas of what they're talking about and how serious things can be. You could see like, well, let's just make everything more serious. Let's have them all dress up in like dark leather and have everything be more realistic and like we'll
Yeah.
bleach
That
out
worked
all the
for me.
color so it'll be monochromatic, like and hard steel and well, that but it's like no, they just like, Cable is blue and yellow and they just embrace all of that. And I think it's great.
Yeah.
That keeps it fun. So yeah, the Magneto protocols are enacted and then the president initiates that and they launch the missiles at
Asteroid M. Yeah,
um,
that's
yeah, they're gonna blow it up, but they just make it worse because it doesn't work, right?
what
Um,
yeah, it's kind of a not kind of a stupid protocol, I tell you, because it's like
yeah.
you're gonna blow up an asteroid and create 100 more pieces that's gonna hit the Earth, but it's like
All right, yeah, that's what makes it work.
okay. I mean, but we did that, and they tried to they did that in the episode Sanctuary Part 1 and 2. It's
Uh,
exactly the same scenes that were storyboarded there, and
oh,
it's almost the same scenario that
So-
they had played homage to.
What was Jean doing? Was she kind of keeping all the pieces together long enough until, because basically Magneto saves the day at the end.
Yes,
He,
making it. Yeah,
Charles reaches him, his humanity, and he pushes that thing back into outer space.
yes,
Then it
yeah,
disappears. We don't know why. Maybe in season 2 they'll tell us, but it goes into outer space and then wink, it disappears. And
yes,
6 months later, it's still gone.
yeah,
And then we find out that Cyclops and Jean are in the future, way in the future, as part of this Scotty storyline. We're getting into stuff I'm not quite as familiar with. And Nathan Summers, I guess, is he
yeah.
like another son from an alternate timeline or something? I'm not sure. It's in the comics, Larry, so you can talk about it. Talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. That's it is from the comics, and
Right.
it's the backstory of the origin of Apocalypse.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, but then the Nightcrawler and Rogue, they go into the past,
Right.
and whoever that dude was back there had the Apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I know that's Abin Sur or whatever his
Oh
name.
yeah. That's right. Alvin Soar is in one,
Apocalypse somehow.
and then the other one is. Well, yeah, I'm getting it
Wait a
mixed
minute,
up.
Evan Sir, that's
Evan Sir's Green Lantern.
isn't
Oh,
it?
I switched universes. Well, guess what? We all are squares because we all knew exactly what that was.
Yes.
Just a bunch of nerds.
You
Yeah.
bet. Made a lot of money doing it too.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
We're the ones that were able to take all that nerdism and put it into the shows that made it a success. I mean, we
Yep.
were able to blend being professional directors and merge it with being a fanboy, and that's what I think made everything work. And I think having respect for the original IP, you got to adapt things, but having the initial respect for whatever you're working on, that's the core key of making a show work.
Absolutely. You can
That was
really
the reason we got called in by Margaret to do the X-Men, because we had been the one pushing it all those years on various levels.
Yeah. You could really tell when it's not there. Like that first version of Deadpool, as he appeared in one of the Wolverine movies, right? Where it's like,
Oh yeah,
take away the thing that is most
Made
iconic about him, which is his his sort of his wit, his Spider-Man like scent.
He doesn't even have a mouth.
right.
They just
Yeah, and they just call it this.
mouth at
Yes.
all. That was not made by a comic book fan, I am sure.
No,
That was some exec's idea.
I don't think any of those Wolverine movies were,
But yeah, man, we did it. We
Okay.
made it through the episode. And is there anything else you guys want to share? Is there anything, Will? Is there anything you're working on these days?
Well, I'm largely retired, but I am occasionally delving into self-publishing. And if anybody's interested, me up on Indie Planet, and I've got like
Indie Planet.
4 new comics. Yeah, I've got 4 new comics that I put out over the last couple of years. And
Great.
one of them is kind of a teenage title called Cat Passmore Subhuman.
Okay.
And it's based on my wife's adventures as a substitute teacher in a science fiction setting.
Nice.
And then I have 2 books that are based on public domain characters, Agents of Earth and Nador Agents. And it's a reimagining of what if the Nador characters had continued being published. And so far, that's the best-selling title that I have in a world with incredibly low sales. And I have a new hero, Kahuna King. I have 1 issue.
Oh, cool.
I'll put the link to that in the description below.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Will just reminded me. Yeah, I have an Indie Planet thing too.
Cool.
It's called Larry Houston's The Enforcers. It's a book I did back in the mid '70s when I was like 20 years old or something like that. And I finally got a chance to put it all in one book. So you go to Indie Planet, just type in those names, and you'll see it. I just wanted to always see it one time, at least once, all in color.
Yeah.
So
And by
I
the
got
way,
it done.
by the way, thanks to Enforcers, that's the first thing that made me aware of Larry, because I bought all the issues of Enforcers when I was selling them by mail order. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't realize we were living like literally a block and a half from
Yes.
where you were living on Kenmore.
Oh, Kenmore, yes.
Yeah, I think what I was living on.
It was
Anyway,
with,
In computer work, wasn't it, Larry?
yeah.
yeah, I was still working in computers as a
Yeah.
fixing them for a living, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Be around a computer that well. That's not most of us artists have no knowledge of that sort of thing.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was about the time when I had been in it for like 7 years fixing computers, and I was like,
Oh,
I got to see if I can make it as an artist. And that's when luckily I ran into Will and Evanier and Rick, and they kind of gave me a heads up, like when they're gonna, the business is cyclical. You get hired in January, you get fired in September, and then it repeats itself, And so they gave me the gumption, the strength to say, okay, I'm going to quit a job that's guaranteed a weekly paycheck
yeah.
and jump into this other side and see if I can do it. So that was a good time
Worked
to
out.
make a change. Yeah.
All right, since Rick, let's go ahead and mention yours again. You have something that was inspired by your old comic Gizmos and Gears that you're
Yeah, I am. I'm working on a graphic novel of it, and I keep getting waylaid. Now I've been drawn in by Shannon Denton into his monster thing that he's been working on.
That's
And
cool.
they offered me a character that I got the design and stuff, and I'm just like going, I can't turn this down because I love this sort of monster. I don't want to get into what it is exactly, but it's just been fun. I just started on it this week, and I'm just like, oh my
cool.
God, this is fun.
Oh,
All right.
great.
Well,
Great.
I would say that my inspiration is The Demon by Jack Kirby, but it's not that kind of a thing. But the inspiration for how I'm going to deal with it is that.
Well, that's cool.
It's been fun to draw.
Yeah, little known.
Thanks.
I don't know. I'm mentioning this, but we're nerds. Demon was inspired by a character that appeared in Prince Valiant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prince Valiant took a goose and he gutted it, and then he created a mask out of it and put on the clothing. But the interesting thing is when you look at the way Foster did that sequence, you're going, oh my God, that looks just like what Jack Kirby drew. So Jack literally ripped off the demon character that Valiant was pretending to be and created an actual demon with it.
Crazy.
And they both look exactly alike, except one of them,
Yeah.
Foster and one's drawn by Kirby.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, this is our final sad in a way. But I'm so glad we got Will on. This is our final.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Of
Good. I
X-Men.
gotta say, it's good to see all you guys. I haven't seen any of you in person in over a decade, at least.
I
Yeah.
know, it's just so weird, this is the way we're meeting each other.
Yeah.
Well, the geography is daunting.
Oh, it is.
Yes, it's true. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, and hopefully we may talk again soon, and we'll talk
Okay.
talk about
Yeah,
Exos.
you should do more of these. You'd enjoy these. These are fun.
Well,
Yeah.
I enjoy Clinton as a host, and I respect him. So I think if I do another podcast soon, I'd be happy to do it with him.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, you guys. Take care.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
No place to hide. No place to run. No place to run. The mutant age has now begun. X-Men!